That's 901-210-8791. Make the bean pie. Make. The Urban Indulgence Bath and Body Boutique. At Urban Indulgence Handmade, we pride ourselves on offering quality skincare at affordable prices. Handmade with plant-based skin-loving ingredients, our soaps and body butters give you luxurious lather and ultimate moisture. Experience the Urban Indulgence at 3314 Poplar Avenue next to Poplar Plaza. Open Tuesday through Friday, 11 a.m. till 5:30 p.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. till 4 p.m.
I quoted the first part yesterday.
We're back live here on the SOS radio program. Y'all excuse us, we're having commentary back in the background. Once again, welcome to the SOS radio program. Once again, I'm your host, of course, Brother Andre Muhammad, along with my co-host, Brother Kenneth X. And we were looking in this week's issue of the Final Call, and I was remarking to Brother Kenneth, man, I see you. Because Allah has blessed our brother. He has an article in this week's edition of the Final Call relative to our prison reform ministry. So I'll be finding my way to that, reading it in its entirety. So congratulations, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Being recognized for the hard work that you are doing, and may Allah continue to bless you to do more, and more, go up, and up. As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said of our brother Nipsey Hussle at the memorial. I got a chance to dip in and out because it was streamed live on the internet, on YouTube it was. I think that's where I caught it. Of course, this week's issue, the face of our belated brother, Nipsey Hussle, also graces the cover of this week's issue of the Final Call. And it's a very, very interesting thing that's taken place, brother.
It is.
It's very interesting, the response of a man that really, many of us really didn't know. I mean, I had heard of him. I didn't know him, but I had heard of him, but the work that he has done in the area where he lives, his base of operations, I would call it, has been taken note of all the way up to the highest offices in California in terms of government. He was recognized on the House floor, I think it was today.
Yes, sir.
For his work and his uplift of the community, demonstrating the fact that it's clear that this brother had risen way, way above the circumstances of gang life, of hood life, while at the same time not forgetting from whence he comes, and it brings a lot of things to mind, but I'm going to put a pin in it right there, brother, to allow you to greet the audience as we always do. So, brother, you go right ahead. I'm going to dig into a little bit of this article as you give your commentary to open today's program.
Thank you, Brother Andre. I'd like to open up, as always, in the name of Allah the Beneficent, the Merciful. I bear witness that there is but one God, the creator of all things, the revealer of all truth, and the sender of all prophets. And it's that one God I submit and seek refuge. I want to thank the listening audience out there in Memphis, Tennessee on the airwaves, those who tune in Facebook Live, and also the viewing audience on YouTube for allowing us this opportunity to come into your homes, come into your radio, come into your sphere of activity, and just for a short while try to share that which we have learned by being students under a master teacher. In regards to the kudos you gave me about the article, there's nothing I've done since I've heard the message of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that I do not believe that was ordained by the Most High. What I'm saying is, there was a saying a minister told me a while back, some of the best lectures are the ones you never give. And I remember one time I was preparing to speak somewhere and something happened and it didn't make it to the event. And I was studying a scripture and trying to put it in context, because we should have a perspective where we apply the divine word to ourselves. And there's a verse that says that before you were formed in the belly of your mother, I knew you. And we know that when Allah God, the proper name of the one God, has a purpose, and his purpose cannot be thwarted.
Yes, sir.
When he has helpers, he chooses his helpers, centuries, eons before they even come into existence.
That's correct.
And sometimes when you see the individual, depending on where he is in his life, he may not look, attractive. He could be in the clot stage. He could be in the embryonic stage. He could be in the childlike stage, or he could be maturing into a young man. But he doesn't know until he comes to direct contact with his mission.
That's correct.
So I look at circumstances in my life and in other people's lives, because we all have greatness in us.
Yes, sir.
There's something that God called me to do, something God called you to do, and there's something God called all of us to do. You just have to figure it out.
Yes.
And then when it comes, you come face to face with it, have strength to carry out that mission. And so going over certain aspects, I understand now I couldn't have made it through what I went through without divine guidance.
Yes, sir.
And looking at this young man who only lived a short period of time, earthly realm, 33 years, that's not a long time by no means.
Jesus lived 33 years.
Yes, the correlation had been made. But it's not how long you live, it's how you live. Who you impact. It just takes the right person at the right time to impact the world. And we, said, and I say, let's change the world. And you get that look like, how can I change the world? And, there's nothing more powerful, Brother Andre, than the idea the time has come.
That's right.
And it's that time now.
Yes,
it's time for us to come together. We have to fight to unite.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And what makes it so interesting, man, is the cross-section of people that are expressing their condolences and offering words of encouragement, and as well making note of that brother's effect in the community, that it has been so positive, because so much negativity is associated with those brothers and sisters that come from quote-unquote gang life.
Right.
But it reminds me of something, of what they said about Jesus. It's an attribute. Sometimes, brother, we're so, lacking in understanding when you make these kind of analogies or comparisons. Sometimes people get offended.
Yes.
But, he was in the hood doing good work, raised an oasis, giving people employment, giving people hope, not judging folks. That's the central thing I heard from those who associated with him. Man, he never judged me. He always encouraged me. And, the prophets are seen having those attributes, encouraging the people to better behavior, not being judgmental. Jesus said, I judge no man.
Right.
He said that in the gospel.
Judge not.
Judge not. And then the interesting thing that I'm referring to, brother, is, they made or took offense with Jesus or had an issue with Jesus because he was always seen amongst the sinners and the publicans, I think it says.
Yes, sir. Publicans and sinners.
The publicans and the sinners.
The ordinary people.
Yeah, the little fella. The one, he not among the quote-unquote the affluent of his time, the big money folks, the movers and the shakers,
big shots.
Yeah, the governor and the potentate or whatever.
Yes, sir.
And Jesus' response to them was, is it not the sick who need a doctor? But, those who say they know Jesus, can't seem to find time to be seen among the sinners and the publicans.
Isn't that something? You know what's unique about that today? And those memorials, because sometimes they can be drawn out. You don't get a chance to watch it from its entirety, in and out. But now here's the Staples Center. And it was filled with, the hood was inside the Staples Center.
Yeah.
And, at the Aretha Franklin or anybody else that passes that's, well thought of, you have all of these senators and governor, presidential candidates can't wait to be on stage and give their speech and politicize it. But I didn't see much. But I just saw the homies.
Yeah.
I saw the people that was from the hood, because you have some of those who I think they're so affluent or whatnot, they can't be seen with certain people.
Yeah.
They heard that a certain man might be there.
They're too dignified.
Yeah, I don't want to be associated with, but guess what? The thing about, common, us common folk, I put myself in that category. Yeah. We don't really care what you think.
No.
We're going to do
even matter.
Yeah, we're going to do our thing.
Yes. We're going to do what we do.
Yeah.
And brother, and we're going to get to our axioms, the audience. We're not going to forget them. But, I just listened, really, for the most part. I couldn't watch. I just gave ear to it, And I just thought, and they actually got a letter from former president, the 44th president, Barack Obama.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, what is this? Because the interesting thing, you said the hood was in the Staples Center.
Oh, yeah.
The
publicans and sinners.
And I find it interesting that, Jesus was born, they say, in a manger. Really, it's an ox stall.
That's all it was.
But one of the most significant, I shouldn't say one, but the most significant human being in history was born in an unlikely place that's unclean.
Come on now.
Amongst animals. That's from whence he comes. He's called the lily of the valley.
The rose of Sharon.
The interesting thing about a lily, according to scientists, lilies grow up in deposits of silt.
Oh, okay.
Which is the most unlikely place from which a most beautiful flower would come. So out of a most unlikely place and from a most unlikely people, Nazareth is a lowly place. Nazareth is like the hood.
Can any good come out of Nazareth?
Can any good come out of Nazareth? So what that to me suggests and teaches the principle that the people, or the kind of people that are likened unto Jesus, don't come from the affluent.
No, sir.
God never raised a prophet from amongst the upper class people.
It makes no sense.
Because they are already filled with ideas that's going to run contrary to what God would like to impart on them.
Yeah. They don't think they need any help.
Right. He needs an empty vessel, or a vessel that knows it needs help.
Right.
So, I just think it's interesting, man, that, who would have thought that this young black man getting shot down would result in what we're seeing? Stevie Wonder is there.
Think over that.
And an appeal was made. And of course, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan spoke at the brother's memorial service. And people from around the world are responding to this tragedy. And out of it, some very interesting things have happened thus far. The believers out of Los Angeles, Student Minister Tony Muhammad, according to what we were told from Student Minister Anthony here locally, some interesting things took place. With the memorial service in front of his Marathon clothing store.
Yes, sir.
The police asked the assistance of the FOI.
Yes, sir.
In terms of, controlling the crowd. Yep. No, y'all didn't hear that.
Say that again, brother.
The police, the FOI, the believers had been there and left. And had gone back to the mosque. And they got a call from LAPD requesting our presence, the presence of the brothers there, to help them with the crowd. And of course, the brothers returned. Yes, they returned. at the request of the Los Angeles Police Department to help with crowd control. And peace was restored.
Yes. But you left out one part that the Mr. Anthony had shared.
I left it out on purpose because I wanted you to tell it.
And because I remember watching, because everyone was posting those videos, and when the brothers and sisters from the Nation of Islam left, people were still coming. Mm-hmm. And emotions were still inflamed.
It was still raw.
And so they called the nation back, and the response, according to Student Minister Anthony Muhammad from Mr. Tony, was, will your officers submit to our authority?
Will they take instructions?
Or will they take instructions from us?
And that's how he put it. Will they take instructions from the brothers?
And the police, whoever was in charge, I don't know if it was a chief or whatever, said yes. Mm-hmm. And so here it is that the Nation of Islam went in, and the authoritative figures there, submitted to the divine leadership and guidance under Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because we have a history with our people. Our people know when we come, we don't come at them aggressively. We don't come at them armed. We come at them with love, respect, understanding, and they trust us.
Yeah.
If we say, hey, you need to move over to the right, they're not going to give. They know that going that way is going to make them safe.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And this is all over the country. If you go back to the incident in Ferguson, and you saw the Nation of Islam out there. In Baltimore, you saw Student Minister Carlos out there, right between the guns and the tanks, unarmed. That's some love, brother.
Telling the brothers and the sisters, giving them guidance. And these are the things that don't get reported by mainstream. As a matter of fact, when I looked at, I went online and earlier today, and kind of looked at, I think it was, I can't remember, it was one of the national networks who was poised to live stream.
Yes, sir.
And they had a list of the program. And of course, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's name wasn't on it.
Of course.
But it was known for a fact that he would have words. But just always a dig, if you will, at Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
But when will they learn that it don't matter? I heard Dr. Ava Muhammad say something very profound. She was speaking in a lecture. She said, when they get to asking you these things and questions, she said, I don't care what you think.
It doesn't even matter.
It don't matter to me.
And that's the thing, brother. We in the Nation of Islam, and I'm telling you, we don't care what you think about our man. Let's make that very clear. And I don't mind it. Brother Andre Muhammad, I don't care what you think about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan or the Nation of Islam. Because you tell that tree, that man, by the fruit that he has borne, that God has blessed him to bear. And you tell the tree of the community of the believers in the nation, by the fruit that God has blessed us to bear. So as the light gets brighter and brighter coming from this little nation of Islam, it's like coming to the realization that the sun is out. You know what I'm saying, brother? On a cloudless day, once it gets 12 noon,
yes, sir,
people that are denying that the sun is out start to look a little foolish.
Right.
So it's just a matter of letting the light shine. We don't have to worry about the naysayers.
Yes, sir. I think the best thing that I ever learned, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was giving a lesson, and he said, put a clean glass next to a dirty glass.
You don't have to condemn it.
Yeah, and just let the people choose.
Let them choose what they want to drink from. Because, brother, what I learned from that, there are going to be people that just want to drink dirty water. Some people, and it's unfortunate, but we cannot fret ourselves with what evildoers do. They'll soon be cut off.
Yes, sir.
So we don't get all in our feelings about those who want to be detractors. And go ahead. May God bless you. Because I like the analogy that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave that I've heard the Honorable Louis Farrakhan recount on several occasions. He said, brother, if they took out a full paid ad in the newspaper in words and cussed me out every line, they would be doing nothing but helping me.
Right.
Because every knock is a boost. And he said, brother, there was a donkey in a ditch one day.
Oh, yes, sir.
And everybody that walked by picked up a stone or a rock and threw it at the donkey. And over time, so many went through so many stones and walked by. So many had walked by and threw so many stones. One day, the donkey just walked out of the ditch.
Right.
And he said, remember, brother, every knock is a boost. So y'all knockers, keep on knocking. You'll just keep on boosting the truth of what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and his work, his ministry, and the effect for the better that has had and is continuing to have. And he has brothers and sisters who are striving to follow his beautiful example. And I am proud to say, and honored to say, that I am one that's trying to be a good helper and to be the kind of example that is striving towards that. And it's a lot of work, you know, because I'll just leave it right there. It's a lot of work, and it's work on self. That's where most of it is.
Because until you deal with self-analysis, self-examination, which ultimately will lead to self-correction.
That's right.
You can always find yourself playing the blame game.
Yeah, you always point somebody else for what happened.
And what we have to do is take responsibility to rebuild our own community.
There it is.
And this is what the lesson that the young brother was living. His real name, I can't pronounce it, but I did get the meaning.
Amarius Askedon.
And it said that God is risen. God will arise, something to that effect. You know, and his father, he spoke very eloquently. I did catch his remarks. And these are things that I hope that we can hold on to. Typically, when we respond emotionally, when the emotion settles down, we go back to business as usual. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Again, the young man, if you would, the books he gave out, they didn't say it. You say, man, he would pass books out. Well, the #1 book that he gave out was Message to the Black Man. Someone say it brought over 1,500 and would give those things out. When you say, why? Was he a Muslim? Well, depending on your understanding, I won't deal with that. But I do know that in the Message to the Black Man, in the front, it deals with certain things. But when you open up, the heart of the book is the program and position. And he has a program for self-development to gain a place in the sun. And when you look at what the young brother was doing, it was coming out of that program.
He was following that template.
To a T. It's just as the 10-point program that the Black Panther Party had. They were inspired by the teachings of Brother Malcolm X, who was laying down the program of the Nation of Islam. But the thing that I'm saying is that we have to mature from our parochial view of what or our organization or our faith and whatnot, and we have to look at the broad picture. We have to look at it like a large stream or Lake Michigan. I always use that because I'm from Michigan. Well, Lake Michigan, it touches Michigan. It touches Illinois as well. You know, it touches several states. You know, but when you're in the water, you're still in Lake Michigan. So when we say unity and uniformity is not the same thing. When you have uniformity, you dress alike, you eat the same thing. That's uniformity. No, we're not looking for that. What we're trying to do is establish relationships with like-minded people to look at our condition, which everybody's already diagnosed. There's nobody saying nothing today that wasn't said 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. We know what we have to do is emulate what this brother's doing. You started on his block. Now, what if you just start on your block? You start with, well, I'm going to just take care of my house. I'm going to cut this grass. See if I can refurbish it. I'm going to see if I can do whatever I got. It may not be much, but I'm going to make it excellent. You inspire your next door neighbor. You inspire your neighbor across the street. Now you inspire the local school. Then you inspire all your neighborhood. And then it becomes a righteous germ that we need to spread. And then Memphis can come up.
That's correct.
Detroit, it could come up. You see, that's what we have to do.
That's what we have to do, brother. You know, and I think, Brother Kenneth, as I close on this part of my commentary and get ready for these guiding principles for our discussion for today, I think that's really what it means when it says in Christ there is no bond, no free, no male, no female, no Greek. What it means, as I understand it now, that once you have a Christ-like mind, you don't see people based on their label, their ethnicity, their gender. You see people and weigh people based on the principles that govern proper human conduct. So you transcend. You don't see people where they are per se.
Right.
Or you don't. How can I say this? You actually do meet people where they are, and you encourage them to where their gift and their humanity should bring them. Whether they are Muslim, whether they are Christian, it ain't about converting to a label.
Right.
It's about accepting and understanding of God, regardless of, if you want to call it Buddhism, cool. Because when you look at the principles in each faith, all of them deal with one main thing or principle: obedience to God. I mean, you can sum up religion with those two words: obey God. That's the right religion. And then do unto others as you would have do unto you. In Islam, we say you are not a Muslim until you want for your brother what you want for yourself. So, I mean, and I think, brother, and for today, brothers and sisters, we want to know what good will come and can come, and what lessons can we learn as we watch this response to the loss of Nipsey Hussle, Brother Ashkelon, and what can really come out of this, because one thing that they're not talking about is that the Crips and the Bloods, by the hundreds, if I'm not mistaken, or more, gathered at the memorial spot in the aftermath of the, it was raw for a while, but they came and they are forming truces.
Yes.
And that was mentioned during the memorial. Establish a truce, because it seems as though, brother, somebody is desirous of pouring gasoline on this little fire, in hopes that the brothers, there will be retaliation and all of this, and I'm going to play again what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned about retaliation. We played some of it yesterday. Today I'm going to play it in its entirety, both excerpts. But all over the country, what's happening in Los Angeles can be used as a template, an example of how we can begin to stem the tide of what we discussed yesterday, the plague of death in the black community, how to escape it.
Yes, sir.
So as I see it, dear brother, what I see happening in Los Angeles and how the people are responding, there was some more homicides today. I think it was on White Station, and in the wake of what happened in West Memphis. How can these things can be viewed and used out of the tragedies? Can light or peace come? That the life of the person that was lost can be used as, I don't want to say fertilizer, but that's what comes to mind. God is the quintessential economist.
Yes, sir.
Because he wastes nothing. The leaf that falls from the tree ultimately gets broken down into the soil to feed the tree from whence it came, to enrich the soil, to further the life of the tree. So it is with vegetation and plants. So the life that leaves us, when we study it, it can become nourishment, if you will, to some degree, for the lives that are left, that we may learn what to do or what not to do. that we may have a better community in the aftermath of those kinds of tragedies. But that's what we want to deal with. So the axioms, and I won't waste much time on them. I shouldn't say waste. I won't spend. Yes, it is certainly not a waste of time. Bad choice of words.
I know.
Yes, sir. But I mean, that's a terrible choice of words. But I won't tarry, if you will. But the first, of course, is from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, wherein he writes, "He who prescribes for you the diameter of your knowledge dictates the circumference of your activity." And the second is the definition of a slave. A slave is one whose power and authority is ruled over by another and whose sphere of freedom is limited, according to the wishes of his master. And the third, from Carter G. Woodson, in his book, Miseducation of the Negro, he writes, "When you control a man's thinking, you don't worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him to go here or yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not have to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there's not a back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary." And there you have our axioms for today's discussion. And we want to talk about it, if you so desire, if you wish. We talked yesterday about, the plague of death in the black community every day. And in the midst of this tragedy, the plague of death struck, for whatever reason. And according to all appearances, Brother Kenneth, a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, some are online, promoting conspiracy theories and all of this kind of thing. And, people talking about, well, he was working on the documentary for Dr. Sebi. Well,
that information been out there for a while.
Yeah, you should hold.
It's still gonna be out there.
It's still gonna be out there.
It's I don't know. I really don't get into controlling the. I'm not the thought police. I always, I think everyone has a right to express, his or her opinion. So I read that someone put out something that this individual may have been paid by the government X amount of dollars.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So what we have to do is put certain things in context. For example, I was reading today on, I forgot what news was, the Washington Times, but one of the leading papers was discussing the leaving Neverland thing that was out.
Right.
And comes to find out that one of the accusers
I read that too.
Speaking about the train room where he was repeatedly assaulted. I don't know the veracity of that, but the receipts that was brought by the Michael Jackson estate for all those who may not have known, the train room that this alleged the incident was supposed to happen back in 92 wasn't built until 93.
Yeah, he said it happened beginning in 92.
Yes, and so
it wasn't completed until 93.
And so now they're pulling the documentary.
Yeah, they're
pulling the interviews. But what was your motive in the beginning? So I said all that to say this: we have to be careful until we can vet things and get the receipts, and to take a page out of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. His first response says, right now we are gathering information.
He's following what the Quran says. When an unrighteous person bring you news, and we know news media in America has not been righteous.
Exactly.
Look carefully into what the Quran says, lest you harm a people in ignorance and later be sorry for it. In words.
Right. So let's be careful what we put out there, because some people, for whatever reason, think if it's on the internet, it must be true. So
I mean, my point in raising those things is we should be careful, brothers and sisters. I'm stumbling over my words right now because I don't want to, say the wrong thing, but at the same time, oftentimes, we jump to stuff and we have nothing to back it other than innuendo or circumstantial things, no fact-based data to prove or justify, what we're presenting to the public. And unfortunately, people use circumstances, coincidences, and all of this kind of stuff to forward these kinds of theories. But I'll say this, brother, I actually watched the video footage, the surveillance footage has surfaced. And from an investigative standpoint, an investigative mind, in that particular lens, when you look at the way that brother took that brother's life, it looked personal. The way he did it, it looked very personal. So that's how it looked.
Yes, sir.
According to appearances, but appearances are not necessarily always. That's why you investigate.
Right.
That's why you look into it carefully. That's why you vet everything. But on the surface, looking at how it happened, it looked very, very personal. But we want to get at, really in truth, brother, what is being, what this tragedy is giving birth to.
Yes, exactly.
Out of a dark, very, very dark and tragic situation, a very, very painful situation, you see some good things coming.
Right.
And in death, they've blown the brother up. Whereas a lot of people that are hearing his name never heard of him before.
I must admit, until it happened, I had never heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean he wasn't important. I just wasn't, I wasn't familiar with the brother. Then as I looked into him, I was like, wow.
Uh-huh.
And, they were showing some of his early videos when he was just selling mixtapes out the trunk.
Uh-huh.
But he was talking about acquiring assets and everything. I was like, man, that's just, he was thinking above the common thought pattern of his age group. It's not unique for the simple fact, when you read books like Soledad Brother, Blood in My Eye, by George Jackson, he had a brother that he was writing from San Quentin named Jonathan. And in Blood in My Eye, you saw Jonathan's thinking become more revolutionary. And by the time he was 16, he was literally participated in trying to get his brother out of prison. So you can have a different level of consciousness. If you remember the rapper Rakim, from our age group, we remember Eric B. and Rakim.
I remember him.
Eric
B. for president.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Rakim, one of the early records, the stuff he was talking about, but he was a teenager.
He was just a teen, man. They was just little boys in the hood, basically.
So it all depends on what you're exposed to, is the point I'm making. Yeah. So, yesterday and today, if we can tie those in, Brother Andre, because I know you had mentioned it. I'm here sometimes just to remind you, because we get to talk about it. And we need to talk about conflict resolution in our neighborhoods.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Increasing peace in these streets, because it's almost summer, and in Memphis it get hot, and when it get hot, things get hot. So we have to understand, how to first establish peace, and then how to maintain the peace. And this is why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that when you say peace, then the peace has to be supported by a righteous code of conduct.
Absolutely.
And when it's supported by a righteous code of conduct, then it produces love. And he said this very simple, and you said it earlier, that I treat you the way I want you to treat me.
That's correct, brother. And conflict resolution is the undergirding theme that we want to deal with. That's why I called it, the Nipsey Hussle Memorial, Peace Out of Tragedy. And how we establish peace. Okay, we got a caller calling. Man, let's get this person in. Let's see, hold on a second there. You're on the SOS radio program. Would you hold, please? Yes, sir. You're on the SOS. Let me get you on live. What's your name? Yes, can you hear me? Let's see if we can get that person on. Yeah, brother, I'm in here multitasking. Let's see if we can get that. I think they're still. Well, no, they're not there. Well, maybe I did it wrong. I'm saying, see, we rarely get a call, so we got a lot of people that sit and listen, man. I had some people today, anticipating what we would share or discuss on today's program. But, brother, you're absolutely right. Conflict resolution is of the utmost importance today. Resolving the conflicts. And there has to be an honest broker, if you will, in between the two that are at odds. And the first thing it may be the first, but I know it is certainly the most important thing that has to be present in resolving conflicts is truth. Because just like in a war, the first tragedy in any conflict is the truth. And those who want conflict, they engage in keeping the truth hidden. Or the party that's guilty, for starting the conflict, oftentimes does not want to be very forthcoming, right, in terms of getting to the root of why the beef exists, why we're having the conflict. So we in the Nation of Islam, we have been working at this for quite some time, conflict resolution. As a matter of fact, we've used it in a high school setting, having students, come to the table of dialogue to resolve personal differences. And one thing we learned, Brother Kenneth, myself and Brother John, one thing we learned, brother, is when two people are at odds, there are always others on each side egging it on. That's how it goes. So what we would do is we would get the two principal people and leave the background noise out, meaning the other folk, and have just them two. And then when you talk to them about it, once you are blessed, if you're blessed to get them to open up and ask them, well, why y'all at odds? Or what's this about? The most often word you hear them say is they. They said. They talking about. Dude them said. Yeah, man. I heard. From who? Who is this mysterious they? And then once they began to identify, well, they told me you said. And we will ask, well, did you go and ask him or her, did they say that? No. Well, what makes you so sure they said or did that? Well, that's what they said. Well, how much do you trust the they that gave you that information? Because now we're sitting here, the person that was accused of a certain thing saying, I did or said no such thing. And in most instances, brother, we find that the conflict is not necessarily between the two. The person or these mysterious theys are the ones who are throwing rocks and hiding their hands. Because they may have a conflict with one of the parties involved, but they don't want to directly confront them. So they egg somebody on who they think can deal with the problem that they can't deal with. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, sir. So, exactly. And that's what happens. Our children, brother, all it takes is a Facebook post, to get something started. And whether we want to accept it or believe it or not, when the Soviet Union fell, and this is documented, when the Soviet Union fell, the intelligence agency's assets were reassigned. I think this was in the 90s. They were brought out of that part of the world, Germany. And they were reassigned. And guess what they were reassigned to? To infiltrate. Yes, I heard Mr. Farragon teach it. He said they were assigned to the gangs. To the street gangs. And I want to say, because we was talking about it earlier, this particular paper that came out this week. We got a caller, man, and I see that name, and I want to talk to this brother. Hold on. Talks about it's a special message to street organization. I mentioned it yesterday, and you would do well to go to YouTube. You would do well to go to YouTube
and download that particular lecture. It was in Newark, New Jersey. Message to the street organizations, or it might say message to the city leaders, and the minister is laying it out, giving you the format and giving guidance unto those who would like to break the peace. All that is you experiencing now. He gave you the template on how to escape it right then. So it will behoove you to go and get that lecture and listen to it in its entirety. It's about 75 minutes. It's not that long, and it is extremely powerful.
Yes. Brother, we got a call on the line. We got Brother Tadaro Muhammad. You there, Brother Tadaro?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. How you doing, soldier?
Oh, man, I'm fine. All praises, all special. Our two brothers, man.
Yes, sir.
Was given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Ahmed to his fire, man.
Yes, sir.
That will save our people.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. It certainly will, brother. What's on your mind today, TD? What do you think about this thing in Los Angeles, man? This memorial service.
I'm like Brother Kenneth. You know, I never knew a lot about Nipsey, you know, until I heard. And then I look at the beauty of what he did. And then Ahmed's fire said, always pay attention to the hand of God. And I'm sitting here hearing y'all talking, and I'm sitting here, Hickory Hill, Recreation. I've never been out here before. You know, I'm thinking about Nipsey. I'm thinking about what we should do. The beautiful solution y'all had. I said, you know what, man? There's a police precinct sitting right by this recreation center, and another brother just jumped another brother inside the recreation center, and the police sitting at the front desk chewing chips or something. I don't know what the hell they doing. And I said to myself, you know, what Nipsey did, he was a light in the midst of darkness. He went back to the worst area of where he was allowed to be in the parking lot. The guy wouldn't give him a chair at the morning when he could sit down at the building. And Nipsey bought it, and now the guy ran from him. And I said, what Nipsey did was the most honorable Elijah Muhammad asking us to do with the solutions we got.
Yes,
we got to be a light in the midst of darkness. How do you do that, brother? We need to start setting up places, businesses. And we might be selling whiting fish and some bean pies, but that's just, I went to this little place that these guys that sell vegan food. We need to set up businesses in all our communities that's profitable. At the same time, it need to be a light where people can come to us for conflict resolution. They can come up with problems, because when a problem break out, if they don't know where to go, our people just immediately kick into savage mode. These teachers we got that y'all talking about, man, it can save our people. But you know what? We not setting up. We're not setting up like they ain't doing nothing. They're everywhere, but they ain't doing nothing. I mean, right here, I'm in Hickory Hill Mall. I'm listening to y'all talk. I'm like, man, what is it trying to show me? That we need to be in every area. We need. This park had mosques all the way up to T in New York. That's like big influence. People knew where to go if they had problems. People knew where to look if you want to look at clean and decent people. He had a mosque in every barrel. Like we should have mosques and start our study and grow them into mosques in every area. Because this message, man, it need to be in Hickory Hill. You know what he been doing. Memphis, people are different, but they the greatest though. So we need to get North Memphis and Fraser, Raleigh. We need to have little eateries and restaurants and this and that. And I was just in there, these young brothers, man. I remember I was poor growing up, so I was buying a drink. My brother, he trained the children, and the Muslim children. They on the track and everything. Cornelius. I said, I'm sure they got water out there. So I was buying my son one, and my daughter, she wanted a drink. And I reached in my pocket and found all the dollars I had. I might have had 15 of them. You know, the rest of them were 20s and 10s. I said, keep on buying the Gatorade. Put them on the ground. So what you doing, Daddy? I said, I remember when I was poor, we didn't have nothing. I would buy everybody I can here Gatorade, baby. And she said, why, Daddy? I said, the more you give, the more you receive. Our people are poor, and they don't have nothing. So I heard, and I just became like, for to go live, and I listened to you all. See, we need to do what Nipsey did in every area of Memphis, every barrel, every corner, because this teacher we got, but it can save our people. But we sitting in a spot. And so the minister said, go ye into all the world.
Yes, sir.
A radio station with y'all SOS, you know, what y'all doing in Hickory Hill somewhere, where y'all, the people eating, and on the other side is brothers doing SOS. Brothers over here. And then people knew, man, we got a conflict. Brother Andre, man, I want to tell you, man, these two brothers got to fight. They're talking about killing each other tonight. Who is it, brother? You know, it's so-and-so. These folks up, man. I'm out here to holler at you.
Yeah, that's how that works.
You see, the lesson say, what is the punishment for the civilized? Not teaching
for failing his duty.
It's lashes.
They beat it with many stripes.
All the world, okay, let's say not California, in all of Memphis, we need to have a restaurant, eateries, and places, and that we can do, not just making money, that's going to come. We need to have places we can do something for our people.
It's a place of refuge.
Gatorade.
Yes,
y'all get see Gatorade, like, and then I had $10. I said, what can I get some change at? Where I can buy more? They don't have change up at the front desk. I like, well, they go at 10. Who the biggest? Who the best fighter? Buzz said me. I said, who the most honest? They the one who's the best fighter. And see, I knew somebody was me. I said, who the most honest? He said me. I said, this is what I want to get the money to. Y'all share this, man, and get tips out of this machine. But my point is, and I told him I'm a Muslim. Follow Ahmed Louis Farrakhan. My point is, we can get our people. I'm telling you, I was in this world. I was a drug dealer. Man, Muslim probably was on the corner all the time, but I never seen them. Not saying they weren't there. My reality was delivering this pack. And they might have been on the corner, but I never seen them. We got to begin to take this message, because it's like Minnow said, the beautiful example that it gave at Nipsey thing with NGTFY. I was like, wow. We got to take these teachers to all the world, in every corner of Memphis, man. We can't just be in one corner.
That's correct.
I'm in Farrakhan set an example for, we got to follow it all.
And you know what, Brother Tadero, as quiet as, well, it ain't going to be quiet here soon, but there's a lot of things going on among us.
Yes, sir,
you know, that's in planning stages, and with the help of Almighty God, yes, sir, flesh is being put on it. Yes, and suffice it to say, dear brother, it's our time, you know, because God is preparing the way for those who genuinely want peace, yes, not with conditions, but they just want peace. They don't want to just. They're not seeking spotlight. They're not seeking self-aggrandizement. They're not seeking. They don't have some hidden agenda. Right. We just want our young people,
free, bro,
to be free and to have peace. That's it.
Police officer, man, I respect you, because you see the condition. You see both sides. You see what we don't see. You see pooking them, and they kill them all. You come out of pooking kill and stealing them all. And brother, Killer done been in that world. I done been in that world, bro. I knew. If I had these teachers or brother in the community, say, man, what you doing all that damn money you got? Man, start buying stuff. That's what happened to Nipsey. Nipsey came with all these ideals I heard to Snoop. And Snoop said, man, I'm an old cat, bro. I hear what you're saying, but I don't understand none of that stuff. You go do it, man. I'm going to back you. That's what they said at the more I heard, they said Snoop told him, Nipsey 20-something, whatever, he's 32. He's an old cat. Like what Killer said, Snoop is down with the hell with Wu-Tang.
That's the old hip-hop. Yeah.
And Nipsey was trying to do this internet thing. I don't understand that stuff, but you do my back you. That's what we got to do.
Absolutely.
We got to be Nipsey. We got to have a Nipsey in every city. We got to be involved. We got to start buying properties. And communities, you can tell people, thou shalt not all you want. That man hungry. That man this.
He ain't going to hear nothing.
Kill, bro.
Yes,
so we got to take this teaching to all of Memphis. Like what you do. This is a good start because people tuning in.
Yes.
How many people know y'all on here?
A lot of people, bro.
I'm inspired.
Yes,
we got to take this teaching to all the world. If we don't, punishment for the civilized. Yes, but not. Well, I did it. Allah say, how many people you brought in Islam?
Yes, sir, my brother.
Because he was trying.
Yes, sir.
Radio station. And he went outside the norm of a police officer. Police officers don't try to be a police officer and save people like you. They don't do that.
No, praises are due to Allah.
You're a blessed brother. And but Killer was a blessed brother, man. And I just sitting in his parking lot at Hickory Hill. I like, man, I wish I'd have done $100. I'd have bought every goddamn body. Excuse my
You can't say that, brother. Yes, sir.
When it came, I'd have got my credit card, maxed it out, bought everybody a damn beef hot dog.
All right, brother. we gonna end it on that note, brother TD. Man, I love you. Thank you for your call, beloved. May Allah continue to bless and guide you and guide us on.
Allah can bless you all, bro.
Yes, sir. All right, beloved. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, TD.
That's our brother Tadaro Muhammad. And we thank him for his phone call and his spirit. And I've always known Brother Tadaro to be a brother that's about trying to do something.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I like how Brother Anthony says it, man. You know, what needs to be done in the black community? Everything.
Everything.
Everything. How do you do everything? Well, you do it the same way you eat an elephant. One bite at a time.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
just start. And like Brother Tadaro just said, you know, we need more minds like Brother Nipsey. And they're present, you know, but, you know, God is the orchestrator of the entire thing. That's what we can't lose sight of. You know, not to get spooky, you know, but cause and effect, timing, how things happen, you know, and if we study this, you know, and this is a grand opportunity because what's happening with this Nipsey Hussle piece, brothers and sisters, it defies, you know, for those who study trends. I don't think there's one person who is a scientist that's studying this. There was a documentary, the something of cool. I can't remember the name of it, but I watched it. They set trends. They go out amongst the youth and ask them what they like, ask them what's cool and what's in, what's out. And they take that data and they go back to these big corporations and they come up with the next trend. I don't think there's any of those who are basically the scientists or on the cutting edge of cool. The merchants of cool, that's what it's called.
Yes, sir.
The merchants of cool. I don't think any of the merchants of cool saw Nipsey or could have calculated the effect that his loss of losing this brother the way he was lost and being associated with what he's associated and coming from where he's come from, I don't think they could have calculated that he would have this effect.
You're right. And I was just thinking about the times in history when that statement was made. We didn't see you coming. Mm-hmm. Where did this individual come from? I think the last time we heard that was with Barack Obama. Yeah, no one saw him coming.
No one saw him.
I was thinking of something that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was teaching. And again, I guess I am plugging this lecture because he covered a lot in this lecture, message to the street organizations. Mm-hmm. But he was speaking one time in one part of that lecture about Dr. Martin Luther King. And he was talking about becoming a unit, how we are starting to form a central nervous system. And how when we saw our brothers, if we was in Boston and we saw our brothers being lynched in Georgia or in Alabama having dogs sicked on them, we felt their pain. And now what we're seeing is a central nervous system being formed among us. And once we can feel each other's pain, we know we're becoming a unit again, a family again.
Right.
So when Dr. King was killed and 100 cities burned, they wanted to know first, who made that call? Well, it wasn't a call made per se, but everyone had felt the pain of losing Dr. King in such a violent way, a man who preached and tried to practice nonviolence. Mm-hmm. So they had to find out, you know, okay, what caused them to come together, and then they went to work and trying to exacerbate our little differences and making them bigger.
That's right.
And with Brother Tadaro, brother, we go back a ways. I'll tell you our story at another time.
Yes, sir.
But I mentioned it yesterday with Brother Derek and working with Brother Derek and Big Chuck and some of the other brothers, Officer Boyce. They go to these community centers. Mm-hmm. I remember growing up in Saginaw, we had the Civitan, we had First Ward, you know, and they had the neighborhood house on the south side. Every particular area had their own community center. And in there, you could go right after school. They had a kitchen you can eat. You can also play games or whatnot. But you had a safe place because usually mom and dad would still be at work. And when you got off at 3 o'clock, and they may not get off work till 5 or 6, there's a gap right there that they field.
Mm-hmm.
And you had adults who lived in that community,
Right.
and they was like our surrogate mothers and fathers.
Yes, sir. We got another caller calling in, brother. Let's see if I can get him on the line here. Hold on just a second. You're on the SOS radio program. Hold on, please. We're going to get him on, brother, see if we can get him on. Are you there, caller? Walaikum salam, sir. How are you?
All right. So welcome to Brother Kenneth.
Walaikum salam, sir. How you doing today, my brother?
I'm fine, brother. How you brothers doing? Y'all sound good.
Well, hopefully so, brother. We're trying to be good and just trying to do a good work, man.
Yeah, y'all keeping me up, because I was the white sheep of the family, you know, not the black one, the real bad one.
Yeah, I remember, brother. Yes, sir. I understand.
The real bad one, the white one. You understand me, right?
Yes, sir. I certainly do. Yes,
yeah, okay. Well, who was this Nipsey brother? I don't quite remember. Give me some background on him. Was he you said the Blood in the Crip was that his film?
Yeah, he was a rolling 60s Crip. And I mean, and he came out of the hood. He was an artist. He was gifted and talented musically. Yeah. But there was greater depth to him than just his artistry, according to his mother and those who knew him personally. But I was vaguely familiar with brother, but as I have read more about him and listened to testimonies about him, he was a brother who used his talent and the wealth that he acquired with his talent, instead of going and buying bling bling, you know, like most of our artists have done. You know, this is the thing that they're having a problem about with Jay-Z. Jay-Z has awakened. And you listen at his 444 album, he's matured economically in the whole nine. But Nipsey, he started out, you know, using the wealth that he acquired as from the talent and his gift of being an artist in hip-hop to improve the life outcomes and the condition of his immediate surroundings where he grew up at. So while he wasn't known on a national level, those in that circle at the community level all the way up to the national level, meaning the Jay-Z's and the Snoop Dogg's, because those brothers stay connected to their communities. That's why he's so well known in those circles. And then on the local level, the local legislators knew him because they knew, I mean, think of a real blighted place in Memphis. And you go by it and it's all broken down and torn up. And say 5 years later, you go back by it and it's bustling.
Oh, okay.
And it's rehabilitated. Yeah, it's rehabilitated, it's rehabbed, it's got businesses, it's thriving. And you see a particular group of people that you would not expect that kind of productivity to come from. Rolling 60s Crips are doing this. Yeah. And this is the same conversation, brother, that I've had with brothers on 7th Street in North Memphis. Yeah. I actually have had conversations. I said, brother, what if all of you all decided to stop killing each other? Right. And I asked them, brother, how many people get high? Oh, Muhammad, a lot of folks get high. Then I asked them another question. How many people drink water and eat? Well, that's everybody. Everybody don't get high, brother. So I asked them, well, where's the greater income potential? I said, well, what happens when you start providing goods and services that everybody in the neighborhood needs? And I said, that should explain for you why Arabs and other ethnic groups come from all over the world to settle in the hood to open a corner store. Yes, sir. So, brother, they're taking what you should have. And then I warned them. I said, there's no need to go confront him about his store. I said, just set yours up right next to it or in close proximity and petition your people. And ask them, if you want us to stop the violence, support our store, because what we really need, yes, we want to do right, but we're poor. We need money in our pocket. Right. So what happens if Trula Mafia in Memphis? If you're listening, Trula Mafia, listen up, young brother. What happens when you put down your gun and stop rolling down the street shooting at each other? All of you are, I see your Facebook posts. You fan out your $100 bills.
Right.
You got racks. That's what you're trying to get. But look at how you getting it, brother. You got the police after you. You got the haters after you.
You got to look over your own brother.
Yeah. You got to live like a squirrel. You ever watch a squirrel crawl down a tree in the morning?
Yes, sir.
It looks very carefully for you. So you living like a squirrel. So what happens if you all make a truce, young brother, and decide, look, we're going to open up some corner stores in the hood. You can still call it, you can call it truly corner store. You ain't got to disassociate yourself from where you came from.
Right.
You know, and you start doing good in their neighborhood. Right. And then you have some more Nipseys. You have young brothers. You become the protectors of the community. You help everybody in your circle come up. And the brother that's across town that's doing the same thing, you all become allies. And our communities then can become decent places to live.
Right. That's right.
So
yes,
it's up to us, brother. So that's in a nutshell what Nipsey Hussle has done. His last name is Ashkadon. His first name is Emarius. Emarius Ashkadon. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But he has a very interesting name. It has deep meaning.
Well, he can be Google. I can find him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Google.
On the latest issue of The Final Call, he graces the cover once again. If you all that are in YouTube land, there he is. Get your issue of this week's issue of The Final Call. You, of course, you see it. Brother Kenneth has it displayed there on the YouTube live feed. But yes, sir, brother. That's who Nipsey Hussle is. He's a man that's. Go ahead.
So the brother really did good in the neighborhood. Really to try to bring the neighborhood back up, right?
Yes, and I mean, apparently this brother did an awesome work to have the caliber of people to garner their attention. He got the attention of all of the legislators from the local up to the state. He even got the attention of the 44th president. He's got the attention of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. All of the young people know him. Young people in Memphis, the young brothers and sisters in the mountain, they know, yeah, we know Nipsey Hussle. So what this says is to the elders, we need to be listening to these babies. You know, a young sister at the memorial, she said these words, brother. She said, Nipsey, you always encourage me. You never judge me. You always, and no matter what I could say I want to do one thing, and you would never say, oh, the other day you wanted to be this. You would just say in words, come on, you want to do that? Come on, let's go. Then the next week I'll change to something else. And I brought it to you. All you ever said was, come on, if that's what you want to do, come on, let's go. Never reminded her of the fact that, well, just last week you wanted to be this.
Right.
And she said these words, you were my Jesus.
Yes, sir.
Now, I know a lot of people, some of us, you know, were so holier than thou and righteous. How dare she?
Yes, sir.
What I got out of what that young sister was saying, the effect that brother had on her in terms of her mental and spiritual condition was positive. In that, he encouraged her to be a better version of herself. Yes, and he never judged her.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
So, you know, sometimes, brother, we can become so self-righteous, some of us religious folk. You know, it reminds me of the sinner and the publican that was praying. You know, no, the tax collector, I think it was, and the sinner. And the tax collector is like, oh, Lord, in words, let me not be like this sinner. You know.
Yes, sir, I got you.
But the sinner's prayer was, Lord, I'm but a sinner, beating his chest, begging for the mercy of God. Yes, and God heard the sinner's prayer.
Yes, sir.
But the tax collector, you know, he's just so holy.
Yeah.
You know, and some of us are like that, brother. And, you know, so what Brother Nipsey has done in that community, you know, will live on, because I've heard them saying, the young people saying that Nipsey is the Tupac of their era.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Okay.
So that's who he is. Go do a little research on it, man.
Oh, I could look it up and see what's going on.
We got another caller coming in. I'm gonna get him on hold here. But go ahead, my brother.
Well, okay.
Just stand.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Andre. Y'all back at tomorrow,
Just stand by, my brother. Go ahead, sir.
Y'all see it tomorrow. So y'all back at tomorrow, Sunday, right?
Yes, sir. We're back. We're back at tomorrow. Okay.
So, all right. Salaam alaikum to the brother Kenny X and you, brother Andre.
Yes, sir. Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for your call, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right, my brother. And we got another call on the line. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm fine, sir. Brother Terry.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm well, sir. You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Did you see the funeral today? The Nipsey Hussle funeral?
Yeah, I didn't see all of it. I got some bits and pieces in. Yes, sir.
My question to you, and I'm not that familiar with these types of funerals. Perhaps you are. Mm-hmm. I noticed the positivity of it. Now, obviously, I noticed that, and that was good. But I noticed some of the brothers speaking in a way that was, to me, disrespectful.
What do you mean?
The profanity, the MF this, the one particular. Well, I can name the one guy. I know he's supposed to be, and I don't know how real these guys who say they are gang affiliated and they're doing rap music. I don't know how real that is.
Yes, sir.
But one particular guy, YG, what he said was just, to me, completely disrespectful. It was just in this, in that. Nipsey told me, hey, N, MF. I was like, what is he doing?
Yeah. I understand. You know what, brother? I'll share this with you. I went to a funeral once. Some young people, and this was in a church. And these are young people grieving the loss of their friend. Okay? And one of the youngsters, he couldn't have been no more than 19, 18. He got up and spoke of his friend. And he used some language in the church that made some of the people there recoil in horror. I'm talking about some MFs and some N and some weak A, and you know. And they asked me to have words after that, brother. And I said to them, you may take umbrage to what he said, or how he said. But what you're looking at are young people who are grieving, who have had no guidance, whose parents have left them in the lurch for the most part, due to circumstances or whatever. I made mention yesterday, my brother, of something that's called a wild child. Now, I don't know that brother's circumstances in terms of what he grew up, and the circumstances under which he grew up and how it is affecting him now. But I think oftentimes, although you may perceive that as disrespectful, and yet it may be in terms of what is proper given that particular setting. Thank you, my brother. But look beyond. When are we going to learn to look beyond fault and see need? Because I think sometimes, brother, we get so caught up on the fault of a person, we forget about what the person needs, you know, and we'll have conversations around the fault, but no one ever addresses the need. And what I heard, when I heard people talk, I heard how Nipsey affected their life. I heard the profanity. I heard all of that. But what I heard beyond that was, now, these are people that have really been affected for the better, and they are saying from their mouths that they are going to try to be a better person. That's what I heard.
Well,
and I think that's the goal. And I'm sure that over time, if these people are given if the community will come around our young people who speak like that and begin to show them a better way and give and demonstrate, not just talk, but demonstrate to them a better expression, you will see them begin to adopt it. Because what you hear from them is the expressions from the environment they have been exposed to all of their lives.
Well, because of the age of the individuals that I'm pointing out, I think they're going to wind up like Nipsey if they don't change. And I didn't say, I'm talking about those particular ones, the way they were behaving. And I was not at all impressed by Snoop Dogg's, what he said. I thought that was inappropriate for a man of his age. But real quick, I don't know how much you know about the death, but from what I was understood, this individual who committed the crime was called a snitch by Nipsey. The neighborhood labeled him that. And I, you know, growing up in an environment like Memphis, where you was bringing up a particular place where you know that goes on right now.
Yes.
When a person lives in that community, and maybe he is that, maybe he is a snitch, an informant, maybe he, you know, is not a person that can be trusted. Those people, that's all they have, is those streets. And I can basically see where that individual saw he had no other recourse but to kill that man, because he had nothing else to live for, being robbed of, you know, that little street credibility. That's all he had.
Well, brother, you're basing that on information that has not been proven true.
You're exactly right.
So to forward that hypothesis, I think is, you know, it's questionable. We don't know for a fact whether or not that brother was labeled a snitch.
Well, it's rumor.
It's a lot of rumor. And the thing of it, brother, I'll say this. And I'll say this about snitch. See, the angst with which the black community responds to snitch is born out of the fact that we have lived under a government, brother, that has used our own people to infiltrate our legitimate organizations that were legitimately in pursuit of righteous causes. CORE, SNCC, SCLC, the NAACP, the Nation of Islam, the Black Panther Party. It is a well-documented history of black people being paid. I was just watching an interview of the brother who admitted, this is a black man, who admitted he got in trouble, he stole a car, and he was looking to work off to get out of trouble. So he sold the police department the blueprints to the house that Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were in, which resulted in the murder of those brothers. So that's what that is born out of. Now, whether or not it's true, that in terms of how we feel about snitches, now, of course, true, it's been distorted over time, and oftentimes it's used out of context, but we don't know whether or not it is true. At least I don't.
My question to you is, if that was true, could you see where someone who has a Bentley, a lot of things going for him, referring to you like that, knowing you're on that little, you're just a jail dude with very little going for you, and if he robs you of that, because I've seen that happen, he robs you of that little cred that you have nothing.
Well, brother, first of all, I'll say it like this. If that is true, he would have robbed himself. And secondly, and that's not his last recourse in my estimation. I mean, if the neighborhood labels you, or somebody labels you a snitch, then you see your last recourse is killing him?
No, what I'm saying, of that prominence. I'm not saying
of that prominence, no matter how prominent it is. But would it make sense that his last recourse is to kill the person that's labeled him that? And you said that the community labeled him. So,
well, yeah.
How is it? How did he narrow it down to Nipsey being the person that started it? You understand what I'm saying?
I follow you. I hope. I once again, like you said, I have nothing to back that up. That's nothing but stuff I read over the internet. So
and see, and that's why we say, brother, that's why I was very careful earlier with my words, because there are people, brother, we are a community that's still under the siege of elements that have a vested interest in keeping violence, gang warfare going amongst our people. The truth of that is in the fact that the prison industrial complex is privatized, and they are under the kind of contracts with states throughout this country that have language in in the contract that the state has to ensure that their facilities stay 80 and 90+% capacity. So there are legislators and the people, elements. We're not blaming the whole government, but there are people that are in positions of authority who have interests in keeping certain levels of violence going on in communities around this country. That's documentable and verifiable fact. We cannot deny the fact that a government function has been privatized as it relates to incarceration, and it is for profit. And you can't make a profit if you don't have people in. Like the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said, when you build a hotel, you are expecting some occupancy if you're going to turn a profit. So, and I don't think we address it at that level often enough. We want to leave it at the street level with the little brother and sister that's on the street when there's a bigger hand at work that we don't ever really address. And that's why these people that have betrayed us in the past, they toured the country. Malcolm X's bodyguard, who was a self-admitted government agent, he was free to go do tours. That's not to say somebody should run up and kill him. I'm not suggesting that. But what I'm saying is we are the only community, brother, in this country that you can betray that way.
You're right about that.
And you're not held accountable for that. And that's not to say that something should be done to him.
And from what I understand about Nipsey, I knew a little of his music and knew nothing of him. From what I can understand, I think that he knew the street where he knows that you couldn't do that to someone, rob that person. They don't have a job. They don't have a future. All they have is jail and streets, and you rob them of their rep. And those people will turn on them. So then that person will turn on the individual who's trying to rob them. But we'll find out, when I don't know, the guy that went to stay in mental hospital, I guess we'll eventually find out what happened. I don't know. Oh, yeah, it was good to see the minister, too. He looked healthy.
Yes, sir.
He was among his people. We got some good pictures. I saw him on Twitter. Very good pictures. The man looked healthy. He was loved. He was among his people. And that's not because we get this illusion that somehow the white supremacist loves to tell us that he's all these different things, yet you see him amongst his people. He's cherished.
Yes, sir.
That's right, brother.
Yes, sir.
That's
He's
right.
cherished.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you, Brother Terry. Thank you for your call. God bless you,
Brother Terry.
All right, peace. But yeah, brother, I understand what brother is saying to some degree.
Yes, sir.
But, my experience, just on my little local level here, when you're labeled a snitch, people just kind of stay away from you. They don't necessarily come after you.
Yes, sir.
Because it's proof. Look at all of the people that have come out.
That snitches, they're still able to operate.
Yeah.
I was going to say this because we kind of opened up with some of these conspiracy theories or whatnot, because oftentimes when you see something that's senseless, a young person losing their life, we want to try to put something on it to help us understand it better, when at the real deal is envy, jealousy, or anger or whatnot. It's not that complex. Again, I don't know, but the fact is that a young man, not even in the prime of his life, evolving and maturing, was taken from us drastically, instantly, and many people are now sitting back, left to wonder, wow, what if? But it shouldn't be what if. Let's look at what he's done.
Yes, sir.
Because as Brother Terry said, I caught that part with YG, and the unique thing is he was from a particular different set. I think he was a Blood, and we're told, and to a degree, Bloods and Crips have this history. But when you look at it, when people that's Cripping, their biggest problem is internal. Because the biggest thing that came out of that was the 8 Trey and the 6-0 had got together, and they had been at it, decades.
Yes, sir.
And so getting the peace with them was a greater deal than having peace with Bloods. And you look at the city of Memphis with these street organizations now, most of the problem isn't rivals, it's internal.
It's internal.
And all of this is by design. And this is why, again, if we can take the message that we have out into the street, as you said, we're putting flesh on the idea. You just can't roll out. You know, people say, well, y'all need to get out there. Okay, we get out there and
plan and organize.
Then what? See, you have to have tactics. You have to have maneuvers. You know, that community center could be a beachhead in that community where we operate from. You know, we have to use different things. And again, if you're trying to put something on the hook, you got to have the right kind of bait.
You got to have
your fish. And the thing that we have to start listening to young people. Coming from the environment that I was blessed to get out of, the demographic that is the most and is increasing the fastest is the young brothers coming in institutions between 18 and 25. Most of them are affiliated, but if you just look at that and you shy away from it, you could be repulsed by what you see. But what you're seeing is an individual that may be in his clock stage. He has not yet been developed. You have to develop. You have to cultivate. You have to have patience, be long-suffering, tolerant, understanding, knowing that it's going to take time to bring about a change in our people's condition. And once you have that type of empathy for them, you can say, man, I'm looking at an individual that this world has destroyed. You see, we're not what we portray in reality. That's who we have become due to our circumstances. So we changed the circumstances. This is what the young brother was doing. He changed, man, let me change my circumstances. And he started the term marathon. You know, I was wondering where the origin of it was. He said, well, life's a marathon. Life is a marathon. You know, it's not a sprint. And the race isn't to the swift. It isn't to the strong.
So he's using scriptural principles.
Universal principles. See, and I want to give a shout out before we get, because Sister Jill, she dropped something real nice. Reform, not religion. You know, religion messes us up. You know, I want to give a shout out to Sister Tanja, Sister Carmen, Sister Jill, of course, Brother Datrin, Big D, Sister Lloyd. We got Ashad Ali, our big brother, one of the pioneers in the institutions.
Praise be to Allah, Brother Ashad.
And this is the thing we have to do. We have to engage young people. Hey, what's going on? You know, be able to speak their language. When you come off to them pontificating, dictating, they tune you out. They can sit there and look like they're paying attention.
They're just waiting on you to be quiet so they can walk off.
We got to meet them where they are. You know, was the language a little coarse? Yes, of course. You know, if you just looking at it that way. But here's a man trying to express his pain, his grief in the best way he know how. That's the environment he's in. That's the language they use. Now, if you go out and show him better words, better diction, how to deport himself in a better way where he'll be universally accepted, I guarantee you he'll take that.
And you know what, brother, I just thought about? Magic Johnson. I remember Magic Johnson was not very well spoken at all. He went to training. He got himself some help to help him. And I'm not saying that he used a lot of coarse language, you know, and profane language. But what I'm saying is, go back and check it. I was going to say Malcolm X, but Irvin Johnson, Magic, subject and verb agreement. You wouldn't have thought that he was a college graduate listening at him talk. But he worked on himself. He improved self. That's what our study course is about. When you come to Miles 55 on a Friday night, it's about self-improvement, because it is the basis for developing a community, because the community is no better than the people who live in it.
Yes, sir.
So the hood is only the hood because of the people and the quality of their thinking and the quality of the information they have. You give people pride of knowledge. That's why we give these axioms. Somebody want to keep us ignorant.
Exactly.
You know, and then some people won't allow us to get out of our ignorance. When you see a person trying to improve, you always remind them
what they did yesterday.
Or what they did.
Try to beat them over with that stick.
Yeah. But we don't do it, and we do it to self. That's the interesting thing to me, man. But we don't do that to nobody but ourselves.
It's the hardest thing sometimes is to forgive yourself. That takes time, depending on where you're at. Mm-hmm. But you always have to have a standard. When you find a standard to look at, again, this is the importance of looking at this brother's life. It's in the context. Mm-hmm. He was right there for young people to see him. He could afford to live anywhere, and he probably was living somewhere, but he did his business where he grew up. His people saw him. Mm-hmm. I remember growing up in Saginaw, and different ones who would go off and do things. When they came back, our heroes wasn't on television. Mm-hmm. I remember, my first hero was my uncle. He was All-American. And, everybody, wanted his time. But when he came home, he came over and got little old me. Yeah. And I know how that made me feel for that, few days that he was in town. Mm-hmm. Before he, went back to school. I can relate, bro. Like, wow, you feel like, so our young people in the same boat, man. Even in the institutions, the most hated demographic is young people, young gang members. They blame for everything. Global warming, everything is the gang members' fault. But I'm like, okay, how many gang members do you know? Mm-hmm. And then why join the gang? Because if you're a young boy growing up and your family situation is unstable, mm-hmm. and then, you preyed upon, first you're looking for some kind of love, you're looking to belong, and you're looking for some security. Mm-hmm. That group that's in that neighborhood, wherever they calling themselves, mm-hmm. provided that for him where you were absent. Yeah. And now you're going to criticize him. Understand something. When you're a Christian or you're a Muslim, that's your religion. Mm-hmm. How do you feel when someone attacks your religion? Man, cripping is his religion. That's his religion. Vice Lord, that's his religion. I'm being GD or whatever they calling themselves, that's his religion. So when you talking to them and criticize them, you need to stop doing this, you need to stop doing that. Man, you're stepping on his toes. Mm-hmm. Instead of meeting them where it's at, say, man, you got somewhere to sleep tonight? Yeah. Hey, what you eat today? Yeah. Tell me the truth. That's how you start. We always coming at somebody, trying to get them to join on to whatever we're doing, and you ain't even providing for their basic human needs. You
ask them how you doing.
And you expect them to be receptive to that. We're fooling ourselves.
Absolutely. Brother Kenneth, I want to play this excerpt from the minister, man. You wouldn't believe what time it is. It's already 20 minutes until.
Wow, you're right, brother.
And we've had callers though, and it's 15 minutes long. So if I play it, we only have like 5 minutes left in the program. But I want the people to hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So take a listen at this, and we'll be right back.
Jails in America are being privatized, and they are on the stock exchange. And you don't build a hotel unless you expect occupancy. So when they're building prisons, they want to build them, but they're building them for you. But now they've got to create a culture in the community that lends to violence, crime, drugs, guns, prostitution, and it's a steady pipeline to prison. But in front of me are some of the real movers and shakers in the streets of Chicago. But they're offering you rap deals and lent records. See, these are the real Satans. They have to be exposed, brothers. You rap, and in your rap there's a beef with another rapper. And you get real, fiery about it. And you're talking about drilling down. You want to kill your brother. So that's the kind of rap you're doing. And then radio stations are complicit. Because if you make something clean, they don't want to play it. So when you come to the record executives with something clean, but it's got a good beat, hey, and that's nice, but see, if you ain't keeping it real. And keeping it real means keeping it as it is so that it will never change. So when I'm rapping and I got a beef with you, you come back with your record and beef with me. But underneath, we all talking about shooting. We're all talking about, is it Molly? So now my rap is being played. And the beefs from the rap, because many of the rap artists are street organization leaders. So then I got a gun. Where did I get it? You know it ain't legal. I gotta make some money. I'm slinging drugs. Young black girls are being turned into prostitutes to satisfy a pimping craze. And what you don't realize is Chicago has been set up now to be the center of what you're just witnessing in Missouri. Now hear me, because I'm finished. So every day there's some killing. Senator Kirk, Senator Durbin. We're going to raise millions of dollars from Congress because we got to go to Chicago and we're going to arrest 18,000 gangster disciples. They already got the prisons and the concentration camps ready. Listen to me. The former police chief in Chicago that was an FBI officer, Jody Weiss, he and the black officers came to have lunch with me at the National House. And the black officers were talking to me about good community police relations. And it sounded real good, and certainly as a man that wants to see our people safe, I said, that sounds good. But then I said, this train is running on 2 tracks. But the other track you didn't say nothing about. Now I want to talk about that track. I said, Mr. Weiss, I read that you ordered 17,000 automatic rifles with hollow point bullets, armor-piercing bullets for your police. Did I make a mistake? Did I read something incorrectly? No. I said, well, tell me, what are you expecting? That you would arm your police like that? And I said, you know, Superintendent or Chief, I said, I also read that most of the police departments in the major cities are being trained by Blackwater, which is a mercenary group that they use in Iraq, and they're training police. Did you hear me? Now all the police forces are being given weapons that are only used in military theaters of war. So when you see the police armed like they are, that's not to serve and protect. That is to kill. Now, I don't know whether you have that picture upstairs of the group that the military force that came against the people in Missouri. Could you show it? When I saw that come up, I looked in the faces of those police, and you could see the hate in their eyes. And one of them was standing there saying, "Bring it on." They have a desire to kill us wholesale. Now, Chicago is going to be the epicenter of what they're about to do. You know why? Because I'm here. Reverend Jackson is here. Black consciousness is here. They really want to kill Farrakhan. I'm saying this to the government, you know, I'm not running from you. I'm here to die. But what will happen to you? I'm not no Rudy Poop fella that's just out here running his mouth. I'm backed by a power that can destroy you in the twinkling of an eye. Now, I read this morning that the FBI is planning to come into Chicago. They're already here, but they're increasing their numbers, working with the police, tactical forces, and they want to work in the hood with gangs. Well, what is it all about? See? Now look at the money that's being given to rappers to continue the drill kind of rap. This is the hardest core rap that there is. It's killing, drugs, guns, hoes, disrespect of our women. And because they give you money and contracts that will allow you to put gold in your teeth and bling bling around your neck, and then you can come back in the hood riding expensive cars. But your brothers and sisters are dying on your words. And you are aiding in the conspiracy to exterminate the black male. You got to know that at the highest levels of government, they've plotted our demise. And to come into Chicago with heavy armament to make Chicago the example of slaughter. And perhaps during that time, you know, maybe go after arrest Farrakhan and the Muslims and shut this thing down. Because we're the only man standing now. They've compromised everybody else. But I want to tell you, we're not going to run from this. Because if you plan the slaughter of black people in America, starting with a slaughter in Chicago, let me tell you what you can expect. Now I see that you know that I've been telling you about this weather. And Allah answers real quick. But it's getting worse now. Because you get worse in your plans. There's a movie out called Into the Storm. You ought to check it out. Because one of the things they said, well, one of these powerful tornadoes has not hit Chicago or LA. Well, let me tell you, baby, it's on the way. And if you, my brothers, don't change, don't stop the killing of each other, then the wrath of God will descend and blood will be seen in the gutters of Chicago. But it'll be your blood, our blood, but then God will answer swiftly. You are the people of God, but you're acting like agents of the devil. And that has to stop. Now, in our audience today are BDs and GDs and Stones and four-corner hustlers and vice lords. All of that is here. And I thank you for coming. Wait. And I said to our staff yesterday, this is the greatest audience that I will have ever spoken to, because it is these young people that are the hope, but they're in the crosshairs of destruction.
And there you have it. That's the excerpt I wanted to play, Brother Kenneth. And just like I said, brother, we got to right at a little over 4 minutes left. Well, actually under 4 minutes. We got about 3 minutes and 30 seconds left for today's program. But brothers and sisters, take that at heart. And we got to begin to do something to stem the tide of violence in our community and our young people. We need to give them and show them a better way, and they need to hear a message that will help them to understand the consequences of their behavior. So at this time, Brother Kenneth, we got to shut it down, brother. Thank you, and thank our listening audience. I didn't get a chance to do a lot of shout-outs, but family, we are always grateful that you tune in to my Facebook Live audience, to all of you, because if I start calling names, I won't get everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the YouTube Live audience. Thank you for tuning in. We got on a little bit behind on the YouTube feed, brother. I thought it was already up, but we got you up right before we started. But we would ask that you would please subscribe to the Final Call newspaper. You heard us play the commercial jingle. Give us a call here locally if you want to deliver to your home at 901-286-5034. We ask you to come visit with us at Muhammad Mosque number 55. Student Minister Anthony Muhammad will be giving the lecture this Sunday. Come and visit us at 873 Vance Avenue. Our meeting days and times are Sundays, 10 o'clock a.m. The doors open at 9. And we're back again Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. for our men's only class. We're there again Wednesday night at 7:30 for our midweek study class and address given by Student Minister Anthony Muhammad or whomever he designates. And of course, we're there again on Fridays at 7:30 p.m. for the self-improvement study class. This is the part where we learn how to begin to engage in the course of study that will help us improve self and thereby improve our communities. And of course, we have our women's only class Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock a.m., the MGT GCC class. All sisters are invited. All taking place at 873 Vance Avenue at Mosque number 55. Call our conflict resolution hotline at 901-303-8961 to begin to help stem the tide of violence and squash the beefs that's going on between our young people before it erupts in gunfire and loss of life. If you're not in the immediate Memphis area, a little bit south of us in South Haven, Mississippi, visit our satellite location at 1495 Brookhaven in South Haven, Mississippi. They meet Sundays at 10 o'clock a.m., Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m., and Friday nights at 7:30 p.m. You can also catch us on Comcast Channel 17. On Monday evenings at 5:30, you have student minister James Muhammad, who is the coordinator for the South Haven Study Group. With the Self-Improvement Talk Show, Monday evenings at 5:30, you can catch him. Or you can also catch us Thursdays. This evening, tune in to Channel 17. And it's already happened. It's happened at 4 o'clock today for the final call hour. And, of course, we're on Saturdays at 11 a.m. for New Woman, New Nation. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, if you want to advertise with the SOS radio program, give us an email at savingourselves19@yahoo.com. Brother Kenneth, that's going to do it. Man, I don't know, for some reason, today went by extra fast.
Yes, sir, it did.
And next week, we're probably going to shift gears. We got some things because we need to take a look at the hand that no one ever really talks about.
Yes, sir.
That is helping to maintain the status quo. As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan so eloquently put it, they want things to stay the same.
Right.
So when they see a young brother out there who's trying to make a difference like you see Nipsey, then there are forces that don't want to see that happen. But that's going to do it for us this evening. We thank you for tuning in. And as always, we leave you as we came before you with the greeting words of peace, of Assalamu Alaikum.
Everything y'all tuning in once again. Y'all still not have to operate. Everybody join in this melody. That's the only way we're gonna be free. Everybody singing this sweet refrain. Sing this melody till it gets into your brain. Well, I'm talking to you, Muslim, Christian,
They're going to stop. They're going to find another way to use it.
Boatload of money.
I always say that. That's my catchphrase.
That's not
I know everybody says it. I always use it. I use it too much.
What are you going to say instead?
I'm going to say shipload next time.
No, be careful.
That's right.
SB Nation AM with Tony D. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. The second level. The second level.
Aaron Rodgers is just different. This is a guy who was awkward, who has distanced himself from his own family, so he's going to cut out a teammate like it's nothing. Aaron Rodgers was telling guys, if you listen to Mike McCarthy, you're not getting the football. The Packers coaching staff, giving these guys the benefit of the doubt, trying to figure out what's going on, they can't say anything. They're being held hostage by Aaron Rodgers. These guys are walking into the room, and there's Aaron Rodgers behind one of them. And Mike McCarthy's like, oh, hey, Aaron, I just want to talk to the wide receivers. It's like, oh, yeah, no problem. Just hang it out. Meanwhile, McCarthy's grilling these wide receivers. Why aren't you listening? Why aren't you doing this? Here's Aaron Rodgers with a 12 gauge, right in the small of Jermichael Finley or anybody else's back, being like, you better not say a damn thing or I'll blow you away. You say one thing and that's it. I mean, is this a quarterback or Elmer Fudd?
The second level. Weekdays from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern on SB Nation Radio.
Headed to Texas to watch your team play, but don't know where to go for that pregame drink? Visit CultureMap.com for all of the hottest spots in Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and San Antonio. From the most popular bars to those favorite dine-in gems, Culture Map has it all. Then before you leave town, why not visit some of the best places to shop or see some of the sights? Culture Map has extensive coverage on all the things to do in the city you're in. So check out CultureMap.com. That's CultureMap.com.
SB Nation AM.
All Tebow needs is one at-bat in the majors. If he gets one at-bat, he's proven every single person wrong.
God, if he gets up to bat and gets a hit,
Oh, my God. Are you kidding?
I hope he goes full Pete Weber at first base.
Oh, my God.
Just
completely.
standing there just going, who do you think you are? I am.
That's exactly what I would do. Tebow needs just one moment where this whole choir boy-esque image of his just collapses for about 30 seconds, like a window of a demon Tim Tebow, and he can lash out at every single person that's ever criticized him and then go right back to being the choir boy. Just for 30 seconds and just give it to everybody who said this was a joke.
Exactly. Just for those 30 seconds, call it the Tebow purge.
That's right.
And just let him loose.
Be the best. Oh, my God, it would be the best 30 seconds of audio you could ever accumulate.
SB Nation AM with Tony D. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9 Eastern on SB Nation Radio. The second level.
We embrace technology everywhere else except for some reason in sports, but really when it comes to the viewer experience. We want to rely on human error, and we want to rely on some 350-pound guy behind home plate struggling to determine if it's a ball or strike because of somebody's job, not the billions of dollars at stake.
The second level. Weekdays from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. Eastern on SB Nation Radio. The Power Hour with Jake Asman.
Ex-Phillies first baseman Carlos Santana, he took a bat to a clubhouse TV because his teammates were playing Fortnite when the Phillies were in the midst of a late-season swoon last year. Santana said there were players who were actually playing Fortnite in the middle of games. Santana took a bat to the clubhouse television, and he ensured that nobody will be playing Fortnite. He was annoyed that people weren't trying to win. You know, you're professional athletes making millions of dollars. Save the Fortnite for your hotel room or for your house when you're in the clubhouse getting ready for a game.